She was an introverted girl, quietly dissolving each day into the dull blur of routine. That night she wrote a small cry for help, anonymous, fleeting, like tossing an echo into a void. She expected nothing, but less than 24 hours later a message arrived from a tech millionaire. I read every word, and I think the world needs to hear this. What began as a weary sigh turned into a journey that unraveled the life she thought she knew. Slowly, almost by accident, she became a voice, one that lit a path for thousands of strangers she'd never meet. Can you believe that the very thing that nearly breaks you might one day save someone else? Stay a while. Listen to her story. That might just be your own, only waiting for the right moment to be told. The room was lit only by the soft yellow glow of the desk lamp. The clock had long ticked past 11, but Mia remained still in her chair at the kitchen table, eyes lost in the vague, formless dark of the room beyond. The day had passed, like all the others, and yet something felt irreversibly different. She hadn't told anyone that her team leader had called her out during the meeting, said she wasn't proactive enough. No one knew her idea had been echoed by someone else and met with applause. No one asked why she stayed silent through lunch. Mia had never been good at speaking up. But tonight, silence wasn't enough. She opened her laptop. The screen lit the dark like a final flicker at the end of a tunnel. She didn't check her work email, didn't return to the half-finished spreadsheet. Instead, she opened an anonymous forum, a quiet corner of the internet where people wrote about their jobs without names, resumes, or personas. Just truth. A blinking prompt appeared. What's on your mind? Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. Hesitant, then she typed, I don't hate my job. I just hate the feeling of becoming invisible the moment I walk into the office. She deleted it, then typed again, this time without stopping. I can't remember the last time someone truly listened to me. Going to work each day feels like slowly sanding myself down piece by piece. I'm not good at small talks, I'm not quick on my feet. But I try. I always try. And yet, it feels like no one sees that. She paused. Read the words. They glared back at her like a hairline crack in a mirror, small but impossible to ignore. I used to wonder if I disappeared, would anyone on the team even notice? She exhaled, a quiet breath that seemed to disappear into the room. Her heart thudded, not from fear of being discovered, but from the rawness of what she had just admitted. She had never spoken her truth so plainly, so nakedly. Her eyes fixed on the post button. Click. She closed the laptop immediately, as if afraid her courage would vanish the next second. She sat there for a long while, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft tick of the clock. Something unknotted inside her chest. Not relief, but something close to release. For the first time in months she had spoken. Then, drawn by a feeling she couldn't name, she opened the laptop again. Only 15 minutes had passed, nearly 40 likes. Comments had begun to trickle in. Thank you for writing this. I saw myself in every word. I felt this too, and I'm still trying every day. You're not alone. Mia covered her mouth, not out of shock, but from something deeper, emotion. For the first time in ages, she felt understood. By people who didn't know her name. A new notification, one private message, the sender, a leaf in wind. No. Profile photo, just a simple bio. Founder, listener. I build things that matter. The message read, I read your post. Every word felt like it touched something real in me. If you're open to it, I'd love to talk more. Mia stared at the screen. Her heart beat faster, not from panic, but from a feeling she couldn't quite name. Surprise, a flicker of unease, but also hope. She didn't reply. Not yet. She simply closed the laptop, turned off the lamp, and went to bed. That night, for the first time in what felt like forever, Mia didn't wake at 3 a.m. to check her work email. She dreamt instead, a strange, tender dream of a white room where someone read her words aloud. And in a quiet crowd, someone was truly listening. The next morning, the sky was duller than usual. A sullen grey stretched thin across the windows. Light rain tapped gently against Mia's bedroom window. a soft, uncertain rhythm, as if the world were reminding her that a new day had begun. She stayed in bed for a few more minutes, not bothering to turn on the light. The dim glow behind the sheer curtains only outlined the faint, familiar shapes of her small room. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, not out of desire, but because the blankness in her mind needed something to fill it. The screen lit up. A small red dot blinked. A leaf in wind had sent her a message. She blinked. Then remembered the post from last night. Her hand froze in midair. She'd thought it was just a whisper into a crowded room, a breath no one would notice. But this message, what was it? She tapped it open. I read your post last night. It put into words something I've never had the courage to say myself. I'm the founder of a tech company, and if you're open to it, I'd love to talk more. Mia sat up straight. Read it again. Then again. She checked the account. Still a leaf in wind. No profile photo. Just that simple line. Founder. Listener, as I build things that matter. There was nothing flashy, and yet she couldn't look away. Something about the word listener, used instead of boss or entrepreneur, felt disarmingly honest. She didn't reply. Not yet. But her eyes lingered on the screen, as if afraid the message might vanish if she looked away. Ondi. The subway ride to work. The world seemed a little hazier. She held a cooling cup of coffee, her reflection in the train window blurred and distant. But in her mind, one sentence kept repeating, I'm the founder of a tech company. And I'd love to talk more. Who would want to talk to her? A nameless office worker, someone who typed quietly, smiled politely, and dissolved into the background every single day. At the office, her co-workers were laughing near the printer, the world spinning along. As always, she hurried to her desk, opened her laptop, emails, meetings, Slack notifications. All of it passed before her like shadows on a wall. At lunch, eating alone in the corner of the break room, she unlocked her phone again. Her heart beat faster. The message was still there. I can send you a calendar link if you'd like to talk. Or if you'd rather not, that's okay too. Mia let out a breath. Her fingers trembled slightly. Then, for the first time in a long while, she did something she'd never dared before. She hit reply. Hi, thank you for reading and sharing that. I didn't think anyone would care about what I wrote. I don't really know what to say, but I'd be open to talking. Sent. That was all. She set the phone down. Part of her felt lighter. The rest, she couldn't tell if it was nervousness or something else. Maybe anticipation. That afternoon, work went on as always. But inside her, something had shifted. A fragile yet distinct feeling, like the faintest crack of light breaking through a storm-heavy sky. That night, just before bed, she checked her inbox. A new email. From Ethan Nguyen, founder, Nora Tech. Subject, just a chat. Inside was a video call invitation, and one quiet line. No need to prepare, I just want to hear more about the real person I glimpsed in your post. Mia stared at the words. Her eyes stung. Sometimes it's not that someone says a lot. It's that they say exactly what you didn't think anyone else ever noticed. She clicked accept, turned off the light, and on the ceiling, street lamp glow filtered through the curtains like falling fragments of memory. Somewhere in that soft, shifting light, she knew she'd just stepped out of something, if only by a small, trembling step. Mia walked slowly down the cobblestone path after work, the sky smeared with pale streaks of late-day light. A soft wind stirred the trees, leaves rustling gently, like her thoughts, unmoored and drifting. Her phone vibrated faintly in her pocket. Another email from Ethan. I'd like to invite you to a trial interview. Not to assess you, but so we can see if something new might begin. Simple, unpretentious. And yet there was something disarmingly sincere in it, something hard to ignore. She stopped at a stone bench in the park near her apartment. Everything was still. In the distance, a few children kicked a ball across the grass, their laughter floating softly in the background. Mia read the message again, then her eyes landed on the final lines he'd added. This role is one of the most important in our creative team. But I'm not looking for the best. I'm looking for the most real. Her throat tightened. In all her years of working, she had never received an invitation like this. No exhaustive job description, no long list of must-haves. Highly proactive, excellent communication, team player. No request to prove she belonged, just this: I want to hear you. I believe you have something worth listening to. But then the familiar voice crept in, the one she'd heard 1,000 times but never dared to say aloud. What do I have that's worth choosing? I'm just quiet. I don't stand out. I have no impressive profile. What if I fail? She opened her phone and began to type a polite refusal. Thank you so much for the invitation, but I don't think I'm ready. Her finger hovered over the send button. She stared at the message, seeing herself reflected in it, ready once again to step away from something she might truly want. And then she remembered the post from that night, the quiet, empathetic replies. The moment Ethan had written, I saw myself in your words. Breeze swept past, loosening strands of hair across her cheeks. Gentle, barely there, but enough to make her blink. She deleted the message, one letter at a time. Then she wrote simply, Thank yous, I'd like to join the conversation. Sent. She looked up. The streaks of sun had nearly faded, but inside her, a thin beam of light had slipped in, like a small candle flickering in a dark room. Not yet warming, but no longer cold. A few days later, Mia stepped into the cafe Ethan had mentioned. It wasn't sleek or modern, just a cozy space lined with wooden bookshelves, amber light, and quiet jazz humming in the background. He was already there, seated in a corner, simple button-down shirt, no laptop, no folder, just 2 glasses of water and a soft smile when he saw her. Mia? Yes, that's me. Thanks for coming. She sat. Her hands trembled. Slightly, but she didn't look away. Ethan tilted his head, studying her, not with scrutiny, but with the gaze of someone who was genuinely curious. I'm not here to conduct a traditional interview, he said gently. I'm here to hear your story. She didn't answer. Right away. Just nodded, exhaled. I've never told anyone the things I wrote. They were just, feelings I've carried for a long time. Ethan smiled. That's what makes them matter. I think you have more to offer than you've let yourself believe. They talked for over an hour, not about KPIs, not about skills, about meaning, about the quiet days, the loneliness in crowded offices, and how a single piece of writing could reach across the world and touch someone. When she stepped out of the cafe, Mia felt as if she had shrugged off something heavy. Not fear, but the fog that had always cloaked the idea of not being enough. And for the first time she thought, maybe the thing I fear is the very thing calling me forward. That morning, the air carried a crisp chill, not sharp, just enough to slow your steps as you left the house, take a deep breath, and wonder whether today might be different from yesterday. Mia stood in front of the mirror for a long time. She didn't know what to wear for a meeting like this. It wasn't quite an interview, not quite a date, just a conversation with someone who might change the course of her life. In the end, she chose a soft charcoal sweater, simple but warm, dark jeans. Her hair pulled gently back. Just enough. Not too bold, but not small either. The cafe was tucked on the second floor of an old building, up a wooden staircase where sunlight slanted through foggy window panes. She arrived. 5 minutes early, heart thudding, palms slightly damp. When she opened the door, he was already there. Ethan, not at all how she'd imagined. No suit. No laptop. Just a man in his 30s wearing a crewneck sweater, khakis, and a pair of warm brown eyes. Quiet, deep, like someone who'd read 100 stories and still had room for one more. He stood when he saw her. Hi, Mia. Thanks for coming. His voice was low and calm, the kind that left room in between words, so you could hear not just him but yourself. I wasn't sure what to expect. Mia smiled softly as she sat down. But I really like this place. So do. Hi. It's where I wrote the first draft of the company plan, Ethan said, sipping his coffee. I think if you're going to start something new, you should start somewhere that makes you feel still. Mia paused, caught off guard. She'd never heard anyone speak about work like that. Not with goals or metrics, but with emotion. With reasons that felt human. "I don't know if I'm the right fit for what you're building," she admitted. "I don't have product experience or a creative background. I'm just someone trying not to disappear every day." Ethan nodded at no trace of disappointment in his face. "I'm not looking for someone with a perfect resume," he said. "I'm looking for someone real, someone brave enough to say what they mean. And I think you did that in your post." She lowered her gaze, feeling as if something deep within her had been gently touched, someplace she'd hidden, even from herself. "I wrote it in the middle of the night. I didn't think anyone would ever read it." And hundreds of people did. Dozens thanked you. You might not realize it, but you did something many people long to do. You told the truth. They sat in silence for a moment, not because there was nothing to say, but because they were letting the words settle. Then Ethan pulled a small notebook from his bag and placed it on the table. "This is a draft of a role I think might be right for you. It's part of our community content team. You won't need to write ads. Just listen and translate what you hear into the language of honesty." She touched the notebook, opened it, neatly handwritten in blue ink. Careful, but not rigid. "I'm not sure I'd be good at it," Mia whispered. "I'm not sure you'll be perfect," Ethan replied, smiling. "But I'm sure you're needed." It wasn't flattery. It was conviction. And coming from someone who had listened to her in silence, it made Mia want to believe in herself again, just a little. When they left the cafe, the sun had softened, but something inside her had begun to shine. That night, Mia opened her laptop and let her fingers rest on the keys for a long while. Then she began to write, not an anonymous post, not a quiet lament, but the first lines of something new, of a woman learning how to step forward, even if she was still a little afraid. Mia stood in front of the 3-story glass building, a small plaque by the entrance bearing the words, "Nora Tech, build what matters." She took a deep breath. The last time she'd felt this nervous was in 12th grade, right before, walking on stage to give her graduation speech. But this was different. It wasn't the fear of performing. It was the fear of not being enough. Inside, the space was bright and open. No tall partitions, no hallway posters with corporate rules. Just the clatter of keyboards, soft, chill music floating from speakers in the corners, and a curious kind of energy, young, free, but fast-moving. Ethan stepped out from a meeting room and waved, "Morning. You made it." "Yes." "A little early," Mia said, smiling, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. "Good. Around here, early doesn't mean productive. It means time for coffee before your brain kicks in," he grinned. He led her to an empty desk by the window. A small potted plant, a brand new laptop, and a notebook with "Welcome Mia" written in colorful marker, sat waiting. "This is your spot. Don't hesitate to ask anything." Then he left, giving her space in this unfamiliar room, one that strangely didn't feel suffocating. That morning, Mia learned how to log into the internal system, explored Slack, Miro, and a host of tools she'd only half heard mentioned in old company meetings. She took notes carefully, typed slowly, observed everything. At her old job, this would have been seen as lacking initiative. Here, the young woman beside her, Lila, turned and smiled. "Take your time, as we all started somewhere. When I joined, I didn't even know what Slack was." They laughed. At noon, when the rest of the team went out for lunch, Mia stayed behind, partly out of hesitation, partly to gather her thoughts. She opened her notebook and wrote, "Today, everyone spoke fast. I didn't catch everything. But no one rushed me, and for the first time I don't feel completely out of place." Later that afternoon, Ethan sent a short email. "Try writing a draft for the story from Users series. Just the way you always write. Plain, honest, and doesn't have to be perfect, and just needs to be you." Mia opened a blank document. Her heart beat quickly, not from dread, but something closer to anticipation. She began, "Some days you feel like a shadow. Go to work, sit through meetings, eat lunch alone, go home. But then someone reads you and asks, 'Would you like to try being yourself again?'" As she typed that last line, something loosened inside her. Not sadness, but a quiet kind of relief. Things still felt unfamiliar. She still had much to learn, but today at least she was showing up as herself, not pretending to be busy, not swallowing her voice. She was beginning with herself. That evening, Mia got home later than usual. She turned on the living room light, poured herself a glass of water and sat quietly, not tired, just still. She opened her laptop. A new email blinked into view. "Your draft was beautiful. It reads like someone writing to their own heart. We're running it in next week's newsletter." Ethan Mia touched the keyboard, smiling. A small smile, but one that held the whole crescent moon quietly hanging outside her window. No one ever sees the moment a mistake arrives. It doesn't come with alarms or flashing red lights. It's just a misaligned line, a seemingly harmless detail in an email, and then consequences Mia had never imagined. Wednesday afternoon. She'd just finished writing a customer interview piece for the Stories That Matter campaign, one of the month's key initiatives. She had read it 3 times, edited every comma, every word. It felt good enough. She sent it off to the communications team. Minutes later, Slack lit up. Messages from Lila, then James from PR. "Mia, can you double-check the last quote? I think some sensitive info made it into the public version." She reopened the file, and her heart plummeted. She had forgotten to redact a personal detail from the user quote, a line they hadn't gotten permission to share. The file had already been distributed internally and was scheduled for release within the hour. Mia froze. Her hands trembled as she tried to recall the email, but the system marked it as read. At least 10 people had seen it. An hour later, Ethan pinged her on Slack. "Can we talk in the small meeting room?" 10 minutes. Her stomach knotted as she walked in. Ethan was already seated. No laptop, just a notebook and a pen. He didn't raise his voice, didn't pound the table. He simply asked, "Do you know what was missed?" Mia nodded, said nothing. Her throat was dry. She bit her lip. "We managed to pull the file before it went out." "It's okay," Ethan said, his tone calm. She nodded again, but her eyes welled. "I'm sorry. I did check." "I thought it was enough, but hey," he interrupted gently. "This wasn't about your ability. It was about how hard you're trying, so hard you're stretched thin. I see that." Mia looked down at her hands. Silent, but inside the old waves surged. Not because of the error itself, but because of what it echoed. That she wasn't good enough. That she was always the one replaceable. That no matter how much she tried, it was never enough. That night, she lay awake in the dark, eyes wide open. Memories surfaced. The old job, the time she'd been reprimanded for a minor reporting error, then quietly reassigned to a less visible role. Her former manager's words came back to her. "Mia, if you can't guarantee every detail, maybe this isn't the right environment for you." And now that voice was alive again. She opened her phone, hands shaking, and typed out a message to Ethan. "Thank you for your patience, but I don't think I'm right for this role. Maybe I'm not ready." Her finger hovered over send, but she didn't press it. She just stared at the screen. Tears slid down her cheeks, pooling in the crease of her palm, and for the first time, she didn't wipe them away. The next morning, Mia arrived earlier than usual, not to prove anything, just to meet herself in that space again. On her desk was a note from Lila, handwritten, "Everyone makes mistakes, but no one writes like you." Beside it, a small packet of butter cookies, a quiet way of saying you still belong here. Mia smiled. Not fully. But honestly, that afternoon during the team meeting, Ethan looked at her and spoke to the group. "We had a small misstep this week. But what matters is that the person who made the mistake didn't hide from it. And more importantly, it didn't stop us. It just reminded us to slow down." A light round of applause. Mia looked down at her hands. Then up. For the first time, she didn't feel like a failure. She was someone learning. And sometimes learning begins with a crack. Monday morning, the air was crisp and clear. Mia arrived early as she did every week, her backpack slung casually over one shoulder, a warm latte in hand. Morning light spilled through the glass corridor, catching the little plaque at the entrance. Nora Tech, build what matters. She paused for a moment, glanced up at the words she'd seen 100 times and smiled. A small smile, but the kind that comes when something inside you has shifted. Last night, while folding laundry, her phone had buzzed. An email from Rebecca Nguyen, her former manager at the media agency. Subject line, let's catch up. The message was brief. Hi Mia, how have you been? We heard you're at Nora Tech, congrats. If you're open to something new, we've reopened the senior content role here. Double the pay, fully remote. I think you'd find it exciting. Let me know if you'd like to chat. Mia had read it in silence. Double the salary, work from home, no startup chaos. No weekly creative pushes. Safe, familiar, comfortable, a way back. She set the phone down, but her mind had circled that message all night, like a question echoing in a room with no corners. Now, in the quiet warmth of Nora Tech's office, she opened her laptop. The draft of her next piece was still on screen, an essay on the theme choosing to be real. She reread her own words. Sometimes we think we're choosing the easy road to avoid getting hurt, but really the most comforting thing is to be ourselves, even when that means risk, fear, and a few hard falls. She sat there for a long time, not writing, just remembering. The night she posted that first anonymous message, Ethan's reply, the first nervous step into this unfamiliar office, the mistake she made, and the way they had responded, with trust, not blame. It was all real. And somehow that realness made it more hers. She wasn't the most brilliant hire, but she was Mia. Learning, writing, listening. No one asked her to pretend. No one expected her to be strong every Monday morning. There was a knock on her door. Ethan stepped in, easy and quiet. You okay? Jasham, she said, looking up. I just got a job offer from my old company. He paused, then nodded. Double the salary? Double. And you? He asked. Do you want it? She didn't answer right away. Then she exhaled, the softest smile tugging at her lips. I don't want to go back to being the version of me that always had to hold her breath. I don't want to fit myself into a safe little box again. Ethan held her gaze, gentle, steady. Then thank you, he said, for choosing to stay. That afternoon, Mia opened her email and drafted her reply to Rebecca. Dear Chi, thank you so much for thinking of me and for the opportunity. Right now, I'm in a place where I get to be fully myself every day. It's not easy, but it's mine. I hope we'll see each other again soon, just not with regret between us. She clicked send. Her hand didn't shake. That evening, she shut her laptop early, stepped out of the office, and walked slowly down a street bathed in soft yellow light. For the first time in a long while, she felt proud of herself. Not for something she had achieved, but for something she had dared to say no to. It was a quiet Saturday morning. Mia sat by the window, half open to the soft breeze. A cup of chamomile tea sent gentle notes of warmth into the still air. Outside, sunlight filtered through green leaves, scattering light across the wooden floor in flickering golden patches. Her laptop was open. The screen glowed softly. The cursor blinked on a blank page. Not a draft for work, not an email, but a piece of writing. Her first in a long time, meant only for herself. More than 6 months ago, I wrote an anonymous post in the middle of the night. I wrote about feeling invisible, about waking up every morning and wondering, am I really living or just surviving? I didn't think anyone would read it, but someone did, and with a single message, they rewrote my life. Since then, I've started again. Step by step, slowly, unsteadily, but truthfully. And today I'm no longer the quiet girl lost in the crowd. I'm someone who listens, someone who tells the stories others are afraid to say out loud. If you're feeling lost, believe me, someone out there is waiting to hear yours. She reread the words, didn't edit, then she clicked post. No alias, no anonymity, just Mia, at first there was silence, then one comment appeared. I used to feel invisible too. Thank you for writing this. Then another, then 10, 100, then thousands. Comments, private messages, from strangers all over the world, in different languages, all echoing the same feeling. This is me. Your story. Made me cry. Because of you, I think I can speak up too. That night, Ethan called her. His face lit the screen, calm and kind, like a soft lamp glowing at the end of a long day. You really did it. Did what? Mia asked, smiling. You reached the people who needed to hear you. She didn't respond right away. Her gaze drifted toward the window, where the city lights shimmered like fragments of mirror trembling in the wind. I didn't think it would spread. I just told the truth, Ethan nodded. And that's why it did. Elsewhere in the city, a young woman sat on her bed, phone in hand. Her eyes still puffy from a long day, scolded at work, dismissed in meetings, told she wasn't assertive enough. She scrolled absent-mindedly, then stopped. Mia's post. She read and wept. She didn't know who Mia was. Only that someone, somewhere, had once felt just like her and had kept going. Not flawlessly, but honestly. The next morning, Mia opened her inbox. One new message. I read your story, but I still don't know what to do next, but because of you, I know I'm not alone anymore. Thank you for being the first to speak. Mia smiled, then closed her screen. She didn't need to read more, because one person listening was enough. One post, one whisper, one person listening. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the world, just a little, but truly. And if you've ever felt small in a vast world, leave a comment, because someone somewhere may be waiting to read exactly what you're about to write.